Hey, Derbyites, here we are. Matt Noble with Kevin Jacobson and Marcus James Dixon to break down another episode of Survivor. We're going to be talking about the most recent episode, which was episode 9, Who's Who in the Zoo? And boy, finally, that very contentious extra vote got used after JD and Shan fighting over. Now but episodes of Ricard and Shan fighting over it. It's been very contentious. It's now been played, so no one can argue over that extra vote ever again. Kevin, what do you think? Double tribal council, Shan uses her extra vote, Nasir and Evie get sent home. What's for you the lead of the story?
I mean, for me personally, this isn't really the case for everyone, I imagine, but I was just really sad to see both of them go because I think they're both such great sort of fan favorites that I imagine will come back at some point. But I also think on top of that, it was smart to get the both of them out because they both have such compelling stories that they could bring to the end with them if they got there. So that's sort of the overall picture for me. But beyond this, I do think that like this is a contentious group right now, and I feel like a lot is going to sort of come apart in the weeks to come, and I'm kind of scared that it might get a little nasty because it's a lot of personal feelings flying around, especially in this episode. It feels like people are getting punchier with not being able to have as much food. So that's my overall picture right now.
What do you think, Marcus?
This is a really good episode, and there's a lot of flack online. This season isn't very good. This cast isn't very good, but I disagree completely. I think this cast is amazing. I'm sad. I agree with Kevin. I'm sad to see both of them go. Evie was a favorite to win. Nasir was really fun to watch. Let's talk about the twist of separating them for a second.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like Jeff missed a big opportunity. I think he should have said, everyone drop your buffs. You're no longer merged for 1 week only. We're going to split you up into 2 tribes. But instead he's just like, oh, draw rocks and you're going to be on this side. You're going to be on this side. I feel like he should have just gone the full Jeff Probst twist mode and said, no merge anymore for 1 week. I think that would have been cool.
Yeah. What do you think, Kevin? Like in some ways, it was a bit not anything like a merge. They were in 2 different teams. They were competing for award. They were on separate beaches. They voted. It wasn't even that there were 2 separate votes. It was they couldn't even talk with each other about what they were thinking. So yeah, it was really a bit of an unmerging of the group. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm fine with the twist itself. I do think it could have been interesting maybe if they decided to give the players control of who could be on their own team and sort of have it really be strategic in that way. So, it wasn't just so random that someone could just be screwed over just by picking a rock out of a bag. Like it just, I don't really love the randomness. I like the idea of like them actually picking their own teams and then actually having to vote one of those people out, because it's not like you can just pick everyone in your alliance and be good, because you have to vote someone out. So
maybe the teams could have been determined by who stood the longest on the perches, like the 5 who stood the longest or the 5 strongest, you go on one tribe, and the 5 weakest go on another tribe. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
I'm kind of over the whole drawing rocks, drawing buffs. Like I'm over it. They've done it so many times this season.
And I think it's like sort of Kevin said there, that just makes like randomness and luck a bigger component in the game than it probably needs to be. So yeah, I like that. You could do sort of a schoolyard pick, as I think Kevin was suggesting, to help determine that, and they need to think it through. But I also like that idea, Marcus, of how well you do in the challenge determines it. Or they could even like, I don't know, okay, first person out joins blue tribe, second person out joins yellow tribe, or we just alternate like that, and then there's a real sort of everyone's trying to win the challenge, but you then also have a bit of strategy of, oh, if I drop out now, I get to be on the tribe I want to be on.
Good point.
Yeah. So, yeah, that would have been really cool. I think that's a great idea. Have some way the challenge performance dictates what tribe you're on. Would have been a really cool twist. And they've never done something like that before, as far as I can remember.
I can't think of it.
No. So 2 people went home. It was 2 tribal councils. We've talked a bit about what we think of the actual twist of doing that. I think that's all right. I would want them doing that every week, though, I think. That's the, like, I think that's a good for once a season or once every couple of years doing something like that. What do we think? Let's break down each of the different tribes and how those dynamics played out, I guess, and then we can talk about moving forward what the wreckage that's left behind will mean. So the first group that we had, who got voted out first? Well, we had Nasir voted out first. That was a real interesting twists and turns where you had, so Shan and Ricard decided to turn on Nasir. It's Ricard's idea. It was the brains of the outfit. And we had and we had sort of Heather and Erica in the middle. We had Heather and Erica want to get Nasir. Nasir want to get rid of Heather, which was the original plan. And then it got all flipped around. Was this a good move, Kevin?
I completely agree with Ricard's reasoning. Like, why are we getting out Heather? She has no power. Like, she doesn't have any advantages to her. Like, yeah, I'm totally on his side in this case. And kudos to him for managing to convince Shan to go along with the plan too, because I'm sure that is not easy, as we've seen this season, to get her to reconsider a plan that she thought of. So yeah, I think it was probably the best move. It removes an idol. I know that Shan sort of thought that Nasir was on their side, but he still sort of seemed like more on the outside compared to like the core of, you know, Liana and Danny and Deshawn. And yeah, so I think it was probably the best move for sure for them.
Yeah, I agree. You know, Shan has had an edit the past few episodes of being in control and not listening to things, but this was the flip of that. You know, Ricard suggested something, and at first she was against it, but then eventually we see she went along with it. This is probably Ricard's biggest move to date, getting out Nasir, someone with an idol. If he makes it to the end, I'm sure that he'll mention this in his final tribal council. And it's funny because Nasir was kind of a part of the bigger group, but at this stage, there's only 8 left. It's like, you're going to have to get rid of your own people eventually. So why not now when he's not expecting it? So I totally agreed with. The only thing I didn't agree with was using the extra vote. I know that she had reasons to do that, but in the end, we see she didn't need to, because Erica and Heather and Ricard and Shan all should have voted Nasir. If Ricard didn't, for some reason, there was something weird there. Maybe you guys know a little bit more about that than I do, but I think she wasted that vote. She could have used it next week.
Yeah, like it definitely was a sort of maybe not a 100% necessary move, playing the extra vote. They ended up using those votes to make sure there were 3 votes Nasir, 3 votes Heather, and a re-vote. And I guess they were sort of thinking, if an idol gets played for either of them, that means like the votes won't flip back on us. Like we sort of gives it a bit of like extra insurance, I guess, for a vote going on. Or maybe even like, I know, was it Ricard at one point got a bit worried, or no, Shan got a bit worried that this could flip back on them. She's like, you know, what if this flips back on me? And like Heather goes, well, it could. And then she goes, what? And then she's like, no.
Classic Heather.
On you. Like, no. You never know. Maybe we'll flip it back on you. That was.
I do get why she used it. Looking back, she didn't need to, but hey, maybe production will put another extra vote out there so someone else can find one. Because only Xander has one now, right? In terms of extra votes.
I think like it was good insurance, but at the same time, like if Nasia, Heather, and Erica had teamed up, I don't think them using the extra vote would have mattered anyway, because they would have put. So like they were really, it was probably not a huge amount of scenarios in which that extra vote helped them. I guess, you know, Nasia playing the idol on himself, and then I get it just would have been Heather and Erica throwing 2 votes on Shan or Ricard is really what I guess they were contemplating.
It's crazy that Nasir didn't join up with the girls, because I mean Ricard and Shan are obviously a duo. They've been together since day one, and you need to get rid of the strong duos. I can't believe he didn't even, you know, entertain the idea. It blows me.
And he's been with Erica and Heather since the beginning. They clearly has closer relationship, but
yeah. And I do think it was like a better move for Ricard than it was Shan, maybe, because Shan was talking about, Nasir is an option. Like, you know, I feel like maybe Shan's a bit closer to Nasir than Ricard was. So this sort of helped maybe Ricard be someone that Shan's more dependent on and needs him as a number more moving forward. Okay, let's flip over to the other beach that were enjoying a lovely stew while deciding who to get rid of. And this is where we had the Liana. By the way, Xander won with the last tribe, just quickly. Erica won immunity. She may have been in a lot of trouble if she didn't win immunity. I think there's a good chance she's the one who goes home. I think this because Shan was talking about before the challenge how Erica could be a bit of a threat and things like that. So I really think that Shan and Ricard would have been less likely to flip on Nasia to save Erica. So I do think
second time that Erica has now saved herself at the right moment. Yeah.
Yes. She'll have to hope no one reverses the outcome of that.
Right.
But okay, now let's go to the other tribe where we had Xander and Liana, and who else is on that tribe? You had
Evie, Danny and Deshawn.
Danny and Deshawn and Evie. So you sort of had sort of like Danny and Deshawn seemed like a bit of a pair, and then Xander and Evie seemed like a little bit of a pair, and you'd think Liana would usually be the swing vote, but it was really, the decision was more, do we all just vote out Liana, or do we take out Evie, was sort of the 2 options. How do you think that one played out, Marcus?
Well, first of all, I was so happy Xander won immunity. I was cheering him on. I think he's my favorite of the season. One of my top 3 favorites, I guess. I have a lot of favorites. And then, so when he won immunity, I'm like, okay, well, he's going to give his idol to Evie. So one of the other 3 will go home. I'm like, easy. And he didn't use it on her. I guess it was maybe he trusted Deshawn. Maybe he trusted, because he didn't trust Danny for sure. Maybe his trust in Deshawn was stronger than his desire to have Evie in the next round with him. I don't know. I was surprised he didn't use it. I think, was she surprised too? I couldn't tell.
I don't know. Like, what do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, obviously was, I don't know if she was surprised that Xander didn't give it to her, but was surprised that there was a blind side on her. I think by the end, she's like, damn, you got me, like that kind of thing. But I do kind of think that even though I really like Evie and wish that she was still there, I think it was probably the safest move in general, because if Liana goes out and the other group gets word that the idol wasn't used and that like Deshawn actually did flip and maybe Danny flipped too, there would have been a lot of hell breaking loose, I think, when they all converged again. So I definitely get it from their perspective.
It didn't seem like a live tribal to me. There's nothing presented in the episode, but I do wonder if like there was any impact on when they saw Nasia had been voted out, of going, ooh, we get rid of Liana too, then we're really giving a lot of power to sort of like Xander and Evie moving forward. Like, I do wonder if like going second now, we didn't see anything to suggest that their minds or votes changed in the tribal, but you know, it is that can impact you when you're trying to break down numbers when you get there and there's someone sitting on the jury you weren't expecting, and maybe someone you were even counting as a number for you moving forward in the game. You're like, oh, well, we can keep Xander and Abby, but we've still got a group of X number, so we can get rid of them easily next week. If you sort of go, oh, we probably need to keep good with Liana, so we need to, you know, but that is very interesting. I think. Yeah, I guess the question will be, did Xander think the votes were on Evie? Had Danny and Deshaun given him a heads up and just goes, no, I want the idol for me next week? Yeah. Or was he blindsided by the votes? And maybe we'll get a bit of a window into that next episode. The good news for Xander movie. What, sorry, Marcus?
I think Xander was surprised. Didn't he turn around to Deshaun and be like, oh, you got me, or something like that?
Yeah. So the good news for Xander, he's lost a number, but he still has that idol for next week. I think there's a fairly good chance he'll play it, depending on how things break down. I think he's in a, you know, he definitely won't be too trusting of people moving forward, I think. So he at least ekes out another week. Maybe if he'd played it on Evie and saved her, he could have been gone next week, because maybe they will be, we finally got that idol out. Now we can take our shot at Xander. So it could end up working out a bit better for him, but it's going to be hard for him moving forward without Evie, without that number.
If I could add to that aspect, Nasir's idol will probably be put back in the game. If Xander had used his on Evie, maybe that one would be put back in the game as well. Maybe there would have been 2 idols out there for people to find. Maybe he could have found it again.
Yeah. And I believe in a season of lots of twists of end and stuff, no one's played an idol yet. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. And only one shot in the dark by Sydney.
So
I'm
who
surprised
was
no one
the
did
person
that
who went home
this week either. Like, there's only 5 people. Like, you know, I feel like someone should have played a shot in the dark.
Yeah, and 2 people with immunity. So there was only 4 people who had their neck on the line. I guess your votes are more important. Like, you know, like you lose a vote but in a 5-person vote, you know, you're really sort of, you've got more percentage of the vote you're giving up. So maybe that's why with a smaller group, you're less likely to play a shot in the dark. Whereas Sydney's like, there's not much chance that the vote's going to come down to 1 vote tonight. Why don't I just play it? Yeah. So moving forward, we've got some interesting like dynamics at play here. So we've got our group of 4: Shan, Deshaun, Liana, and Danny. It looks like Ricardo's sort of joined that group, sort of as a sort of 5th. And then we've got, it looks like Heather and Erica are, it sort of seemed like, at least this week, maybe it was just how the tribes looked out, but I think they're probably working together. And then you've got Xander with an idol. So in some ways, if he plays it correctly, safe. So if that group of sort of 5 sticks together, they're good. They can just pick off the other 3, assuming Xander doesn't win immunities and play the idols properly and things. So like that 5 could be our final 5. But look at the promos for next week, looking at how a few things are broken down. If that group fractures and splits in 2, Heather, Erica, and Xander will end up having a lot of power and probably end up deciding who's going home. If that group splits up, it looks like you'll have Danny and Deshaun on one side and Ricard, Liana, and Shan on the other side. And it will really be then Heather, Erica, and Xander in the middle. You would imagine, I don't know, Xander might not trust Danny and Deshaun anymore, but I feel like he's more likely to work with them than Liana and Shan and Ricard, particularly because Liana hates his face so much. So if Xander goes over with those guys, it would still be, you'd have 3 and 3 with Heather and Erica in the middle. So that those guys could really be in the power seat next week. They'll either be sitting ducks or in the seat of power, you would imagine.
Yeah, I think the problem with, that group sticking together is that it feels like everyone's sort of jockeying for position in terms of like wanting to dictate what happens next. Like Shan obviously has her opinions. Deshawn has pretty much the opposite opinions of Shan at every turn. Ricard has his feelings, and I just feel like there's a lot of volatility happening there, that they do not seem like a group that's just going to be in lockstep to the end. So better for us as viewers.
There are obvious comparisons to Big Brother's Cookout Alliance, but the Cookout would never considered turning on each other or voting each other out like this group has. So it's very interesting how the Survivor group and the Big Brother group compare and contrast. I do see them making it to the end, maybe without Shan. I could see Shan being the one that gets voted out first from that group. Maybe even I could see Ricard turning on her at some point. That would definitely give him credit in the final 3.
What does our prediction center say, Marcus, in terms of who's going to take this out, who's going to win this season?
Deshawn is the favorite again. I think for 3 weeks now, he's the favorite. Shan is in second still. Xander is up to third. That to me is like a hope prediction. I can't see him making it to the end. He does have an idol, and maybe he can find Nasir's idol and have 2, but I think the moment he's not safe at tribal council, he's gone.
Yeah, like Xander, if he makes it to the end, has a good shot at winning, right? He's got a case to make. He'll have storyteller being the underdog. He'll have some moves to his name. But the problem for Xander is probably getting there.
Yeah.
Kevin, who do you think's winning? Who are you predicting at goldderby.com prediction center?
Yeah, it's really changing every week for me. I'm not consistent at all with this, but strangely enough, something is calling me to Erica right now, because I just feel like for Deshawn, like, I don't know how much of a hot take this is, but I don't necessarily think that what we've seen from him has been winner material as of late. I just feel like he's sort of getting a little too confrontational with people and a little bit whiny with sort of like not getting his way sometimes. So I sort of think Erica can sort of sneak by, and she could have a very great underdog story there and be used as a vote between warring factions. I don't think people will be targeting her necessarily, even with Shan there. Like, I just feel like people are not gonna want to target her compared to so many threats that are left in the game. So I'm just on a whim going with Erica for right now, but I'll probably change that by next week.
I flirted with a new winner pick last week after being on Team Shan all season. I really thought when they brought those little turtles back that maybe one of those little, like they were setting up a narrative.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be Evie. I was wrong. She went out this episode. So we've only got 2 little turtles still chugging along, Xander and Liana, who hate
1.5
each other.
Turtles.
Yeah, 1.5.
Barely
Liana's really hasn't been on Team Turtle, has she?
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm actually going back to Shan. I actually think she's still quite well placed. I think she seems to be better connected with Danny and Deshawn, and from also looking at the promo a bit, it looks like maybe they'll target Ricard before they target her. I think Liana still seems close with Shan. I still think she's got enough connections and ties, and I just don't know if she'll be the first person we will go for. And I think she's got some good moves. She's had a bit of a shaky couple of weeks, but I still think I don't think anyone's in an amazing place to win the game at the moment, to be honest. It's so up in the air, and I hope next week will give us a little bit of clarity. But I'm going back to Shan. I think Shan could still do it. So
I'm sticking with Ricard, and this was a really good episode for him, not just the Nasir vote, but he had a
Yeah,
Sound of metal.
It reminded me of an episode of Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Guys, quickly, who do we think goes next week?
It's hard.
Really good.
The prediction center at Gold Derby says Heather is going home. But again, I come back to what Ricard said. Why? Like, she's not a threat. Why are we going to get her out? So I'm going to go with Erica.
Whoa. Kevin's winner pick is
sorry.
Bold.
Kevin, who do you think's got next week?
Well, I'm going to pick your winner pick, Matt, and say
Shan. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, it's very. Who do I think's gonna go? I feel like don't think like any of them have ever. I'm gonna just say it might be a bit random. I bounce back on Liana. Just don't know. Maybe Ricard wins immunity. They say I don't know. Actually, no, I don't like that one. Don't like that pick. Maybe Deshaun. Oh no, the trailer made it look too much like Deshaun went home. I feel like if he was going,
you're
home,
overthinking it.
Made him such a big one. Yeah, trying to like second guess the trailer. I was trying to game it out. I gotta say, what about they throw Danny? They throw the votes on Danny because Deshaun wins immunity or something. I don't know.
What about Xander? I mean, if he thinks he's safe and doesn't use his idol, I mean, I could see him going home with the idol in his pocket.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I guess the real question is, do you think that group's going to fracture next week or not? But maybe they do fracture, but when Xander doesn't win, they think, oh, we better take our shot at him and we can sort out our own drama next week. Like, so no. I think no one is safe next week as far as I'm concerned. I think everyone is in danger. Well, guys, thanks for watching and thanks for chatting Survivor. You can go to goldderby.com to make your own predictions and join the discussion in our forums, read other articles and interviews with award contenders, all that jazz. Thanks for watching.